my guest is here, and I want to go to her. We are joined with Marwa Osman. How you doing, Marwa? You doing okay this morning?
Hey Jamal, I'm doing good
It's
considering
afternoon for you.
the news here.
Well, that is what I want to get into. Just for the audience, Marwa Osman, she's a journalist, TV host for Press TV, Middle East Stream, Expose, and Universal lecturer and political commentator. Um, you, go into that for me because maybe I'm unaware of the news that's taking place there on the ground. Please explain.
Thanks again, Jamal, for having me on your live show. Let's begin by I'm sitting in a very deep room within my house because the sound of the drones, I tried, but it's very, very loud. And today is an exception of the loud noise of the Zionist Israeli drones that are violating our airspace because of what happened this morning. The Lebanese resistance Hezbollah initiated the first open letter since the end of the war. And the letter, it explains that the Israeli entity did not commit to the ceasefire agreement of the 1701 that was initially drafted after the 2006 war, but it was reintroduced into the agreement between Lebanon and the Zionist Israeli side after the recent war on Lebanon in 2023-2024. So when the ceasefire was announced on November 27th, 2024, it was announced that both sides will cease actual fire. But Hezbollah's statement today was an open letter to the Lebanese president and the Lebanese speaker and the Lebanese prime minister, basically just letting them know that what's being said behind closed doors about a possible new agreement to be forged with the Zionist entity with one-on-one meetings, meaning normalization with Zionist Israel. It didn't explicitly say that in the letter, but you can read between the lines. They said that it is not acceptable, and the demand by Zionist Israel and the Americans who are backing them that the resistance should disarm in all of Lebanon is unacceptable because according to the 1701 agreement, only the northern part of the Litani River, which is like a line drawn across the southern part of Lebanon, which is 5 kilometers. It's some areas 5, some areas 7 kilometers between the border between Lebanon and occupied Palestine, up to 5 kilometers inside of Lebanese territory, would be an area that is a no weapons area. But now Zionist Israel says we won't stop. The attack on civilians, which actually this morning also in Abbasiyah, there was an actual air raid in Abbasiyah, and several civilians fell as martyrs and wounded for that aggression, as a result of that aggression as well. So Hezbollah is saying we will not accept that. We will not accept the disarmament of the resistance when we are being attacked. I mean, the aggression never stopped. The Israelis didn't even show any sort of commitment from their side that they will abide by the signed agreement and by international law and by all UN resolutions that they would stop. They will leave the 5 points, which became 7 points that they are now occupying in the southern part of Lebanon. So just after that's minutes after that statement, we started reading breaking news from Channel 12 of the Israeli entity saying that now Zionist Israel is preparing for a wider war with Lebanon to quote unquote, once and for all, get rid of Hezbollah, and that Zionist Israel also, quote unquote, will not accept to return to the terms of October 6, 2023, meaning the deterrence between Lebanon and Zionist Israel, which was the case between both sides since the 2006 war. Since the 2006, there was a deterrence that if you attack, we will attack. If you kill, we will kill back. And that deterrence was broken after the terrorist attacks of the pagers on Lebanon. That also preceded the assassination of more than 25 top leaders of the resistance, ending with the assassination of the commander himself, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah. So after that, also breaking news that came from Zionist Israeli Channel 12, we had the drone again, which actually has become just part of the routine. But today it's very, very loud, which led me to sit in this area where even the shadow, the light is not really helping. So I'm sorry for that, but I tried because the noise it's very loud. Just to be able to speak freely. I can still hear it. I don't know if you guys can, but this is basically what happened today. But how will things escalate? How will they unfold? I seriously don't know, because this is the first open letter from the resistance towards the government in Lebanon. And I'm pretty sure that there are certain things that the government will understand that we, the people, might not, because they are in direct contact on a daily basis. We have seen several attempts by the Lebanese army, last of which was last night in Mays al-Jabal village, right across the border from Zionist Israel. It's an area where it's open. We never had a wall between us in that area, so it's open. There was an attempt of infiltration, of invasion by the Zionist entity, not invasion, infiltration, which was met by the Lebanese army moving into that area and setting a checkpoint. So this has been the norm over the past 3 weeks, ever since the president gave orders to the Lebanese army commander, the Lebanese army commander, what's known as the LAF, Lebanese Army Forces, to basically reciprocate that if they get attacked by Zionist Israel, they should reciprocate. But that command is unconstitutional because it needs the entire government to sign on it. So it's more of a verbal threat against the Israelis, and it is a warning to the Americans, telling them from the president's side that this has gone way too much out of hand, and you need to do something to step up the security of the southern part of Lebanon. But here we are.
I read that letter, and one of the things Hezbollah pointed out was there needs to be a unity between Hezbollah and the government in regards to responding to Israeli aggression. That for all intents and purposes, Israel never abided by the ceasefire. And so if they didn't abide by the first agreement, what is the point in having a second agreement? Basically, the more that you give, the more they want. There is no way to make a legit agreement between Israel with the exception of some kind of deterrence or parity built into it.
Usually, Jamal, when you want to build some sort of new ties, even if it's with the enemy, you at least abide by the measurements or the truce or the ceasefire or any terms of a past agreement first. You show some sort of a trust building process. Zionist Israel doesn't know even what a building process means. They only know how to destroy. So why would the Lebanese government itself, not the resistance, why would the Lebanese government trust the Zionist entity? I mean, Tal Barak himself in a recent interview said, if I were Hezbollah, I would refuse to disarm because Zionist Israel keeps hitting everyone in the region. Even the top envoy, the US envoy to the region, says that the actions of Israel are actually hindering any kind of peace process, if there ever will be a peace process. Because even if the government does it, our government has done it before in the 80s, Jamal, in what is known as the Ittifaq 17 Ayar, the agreement of 17 of May. And that agreement fell nosedived less than a month later, and it ignited one of the fiercest resistance against Zionist Israel, and ended up in basically just ousting the government that was in place at that time. And I don't think there was a president, but there was a government. So it will just be a repetition, but this time the blowout will be even fiercer. It will be bigger, larger, because at that time Hezbollah was just a couple of hundreds. It's not even, it wouldn't even amount to hundreds. But now we're speaking about hundreds of thousands of personnel, and we're speaking about a public that has had enough, that have paid a lot of blood to keep this country safe and secure and out of occupation. And people like me, who are civilians, Southerners, we will never accept Zionist Israel to occupy our land. Yes, they were able to take control of our skies and bomb us and kill 10,000 between civilians and fighters, 10,000 in 66 days, but they weren't able to occupy any village. They were able to occupy 5 hills. And they occupied these 5 hills because they broke the ceasefire between November and January 2025. That's the only reason. During the war, they were not able to advance. So we will not allow them to advance. I will never. Would you allow anyone to come and take your house, Jamal? It's my land, my house, where my loved ones are buried. I think Zionist Israel still doesn't understand that even if we have to pay even more hefty blood for this, we're ready to pay it because there's nowhere else for us to go.
No, psychopaths are not. They're psychopaths. It's it's not about right and wrong. It's about what they think they can accomplish and what they think they can get. What is the government going to do in this? Is the government taking a more strident stance with this? Is the government going to acknowledge
There's a
Hezbollah's
difference
letter?
between we haven't seen any reply yet. I think it was released at 10 a.m. this morning, so we haven't really seen any reply. And I think the replies will be put out in tonight's news bulletins. This is how Lebanon's news works. At night we have the major news bulletins in our country, so that I think that will be the time where we will hear replies, if we hear replies today. Because Zionist Israel already started escalating. As I told you, they air raided areas in Abbasiyah in South Lebanon, killing and wounding many civilians. So we'll have to wait and see. But it doesn't show. Look, the past, it's been the government has been in place. We are in November, so it's 11 months since the government has been in place, and the president was elected in January 9, if I'm not mistaken, and just 1 week later the government was born. And since then, they haven't shown their own people, us Southerners, any sort of realistic work, effective effort to stand by us. Least that they could have done is start with the reconstruction process. At least, if not full reconstruction, at least is to rehabilitate what can be rehabilitated, because not all houses have been brought down. Some houses have been damaged. Some houses have been partly brought down, like my house, for example. I did not wait for anyone. I actually started reconstruction in February. January was the time where end of January, last week of January was the time where we allowed into Khiyam, into our area. February was me started reconstruction of my house. I'm not going to be waiting for anyone. Doesn't matter who that side is. It's my house. I'm rebuilding it. So, right. But there are certain areas that the government, instead of helping the people and showing that it has this intent of being beside their own people, they're sending the police over to stop people from reconstruction, saying that it's illegal, that you need the necessary paperwork to reconstruct what Zionist Israel rebuilt, and that specifically in the southernmost bordering areas in South Lebanon. And it's up to here. We, the people, it's up to here with. So no, they haven't shown, and past experience with the government of Nawaf Salam has shown that he is actually provocative against the environment of the resistance. He basically stopped any meetings after the Raush Iraq protest that was supposed to happen with a couple of 20 people with a small event to illuminate and light up the Raush Iraq, which is a cultural heritage in Lebanon, with the image of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah during the anniversary in September 27, or during the week of September 27. And the prime minister ended up stopping that event and saying it's illegal, to a point that people were so provoked that instead of 20 or 25 people just taking part of this event, 55,000 humans went down to the streets to tell the government, you are provoking us. Stop it, because if you continue, we will continue, and we will break you. We will take you out of your order. We will make sure that we take back authority in our country. They keep provoking the people, and it will end up in an explosion in their face, a political explosion in their face, where the people will take back what belongs to them, which is the authority. So no, the government is not doing anything to try to show its intent, at least to protect and defend Lebanon.
But it has to understand that any negotiation or deal with Israel is not to the benefit of Lebanon at this point. Meaning, as you pointed out, they didn't stick with the original deal. And if they didn't stick with the original deal, what is the point of having a new deal? And as Hezbollah is kind of making this argument, like, look, we need a strategic unity of purpose, as the way I read the document. That the government forces need to be able to work with.
You're speaking as if that the government is actually one of a government of sovereignty. It's not. It was placed into power by Americans, and the Americans are dictating what should be done or else, because they're telling them, we will sanction each and every one of you, not only your institutions. They could actually put the president onto the sanctions list, because I told you the presidency is different from the prime ministry. The
Right.
President Joseph Aoun actually has good ties with the leadership of Hezbollah. It's built upon years of experience between the both sides, and he was part of the military when they fought together in the Battle of Fajr al-Jurud, it's called the Fajr al-Jurud, the Dawn of the Outskirts battle, which happened between the Lebanese side and the terrorist side in Syria, when the Al-Qaeda and ISIS were trying to take villages in Lebanon, and Lebanon stood side by side, army and resistance, to defend, and they won that battle. So since then, he has very good experience with the leadership of Hezbollah, and he has in his sworn speech, when he was being sworn in as president, he said that it's a priority for us to defend Lebanon and to reconstruct Lebanon. And he said that Lebanon has every right to defend itself. He didn't use the word resistance for the first time since the 1990s, but he said that Lebanon has every right to defend itself. He didn't say what means, because he still wanted to be friends with the resistance and at the same time give the Americans what they want to hear, is that Lebanon will work as a legitimate government and the army should take that protective measures to protect their citizens. But when he actually called upon the leader and commander of the Lebanese army forces and asked him to protect the Lebanese people and stand against any sort of threats that come from an aggression that comes from Zionist Israel, the whole pro-American bloc in Lebanon went berserk. They lost their mind. They started saying that the president is a traitor. And they're saying that, oh, they're pushing the army in a conundrum. But I'm sorry, soldiers go and enlist in the army to defend their country, or else they're just going to work as valet parking personnel to park vehicles that the Americans give us, that they used to use in the 1960s and 70s in Vietnam. That's what the vehicles that our army operate with. Or else, why would anyone enlist in the country's army if they're not willing to defend and protect the army? You kept saying, the political bloc that is pro-American, you kept telling us you should shift from your resistance option and let the resistance give its weapon to the army, and the army shall protect you. And now when the president says the army should protect the people, you go berserk and you lose your mind? Talk about hypocrisy.
Do you have a belief that the military will defend Lebanon if and when Israel attacks? Or
I do have a belief, but I don't trust the capabilities, because Americans have never allowed the Lebanese army to arm properly. In the 1950s, Jamal, if you read Lebanon's history, in the 1950s, the Lebanese army had research labs in universities, because Lebanon, as small as it is, was the first country in the Arab world that had universities, that had higher education. In the 1950s, and I think it's 1956 in specific, the Lebanese army had a contract with the Hagazian University in Lebanon, and they used to manufacture weapons for the army, including missiles. So we used to manufacture our own weaponry until the Americans said, no, you're not allowed, because this is a threat to Zionist Israel. So, and since then, the Russians and the Chinese and the Iranians and the Syrians, before the fall of the regime, they all offered to arm and to enhance the capabilities of the Lebanese army just so they can be up and ready to fight Zionist Israel. The Americans wouldn't allow it. They said that we will put you on the sanctions list. We will sanction the Lebanese army itself, the commanders, the soldiers, the generals. And, they are fully capable of doing that. And we don't have real men in those positions in the government. They all are at the very best at the hands of Zionist Israel. If I want to say at the hands of the Americans, if I want to stay respectful to them and to their positions. They are afraid of what would happen to them and to their extended families, because Lebanon is like a canton of cartels of capitalism. Each one of those people in power have their own extended family that benefits from the resources of the country, which makes them richer. And now the Americans, after they were able to successfully install a new governor for the Lebanese Banque du Liban, which is the central bank of Lebanon, after the biggest Ponzi scheme in the history of banks happened in 2019 at the hands of the former governor of the Lebanese central bank, Riyad Salemi. They installed an American Lebanese central bank governor who they control, who now has more power than the president himself because of the backing of the Americans, and keeps putting on sanctions small Lebanese businesses only because they offer help and loans for the public to start reconstruction, and because they actually allow fundraising for the people to do construction. So we, the people across the world, the diaspora of Lebanon, were trying to help each other to rebuild, and they stopped those financial institutions and small non-governmental organizations from doing that by putting sanctions on them, and by not allowing them to open any accounts, whether in banks or in regular financial transfer shops, which are, you find many of them in Lebanon, like Wish shops and OMT shops, or what other ways known as the Western Union shops. They stop. They are besieging the people and the institutions. So because of that, I do think that the Lebanese army has the intent, the will, and the heart to protect us, but they don't have the capabilities. Zionist Israel would massacre them. I'm sorry to say.
The goal seems to be very specific: to steal land. I mean, for one, Israel is attacking construction equipment. They're attacking anything that's dealing with construction. And as you point out,
private company-owned construction. So it's like it's civilians. They're attacking civilian private companies, which are helping out with the reconstruction.
Right. So it seems to be the objective is, well, we want to prevent the reconstruction because we want to steal that particular territory, meaning the attack was always in the fix. It was always the expectation or the assumption that that's what was going to take place.
Of course, Jamal. I mean, the Mossad himself, Yossi Sarel himself, was saying that he came up with the idea of the Pagers terrorist attack in 2002. That's before the 2006 war.
Right.
So these people have always had in mind a way to kill us and to weaken us and to claim our land as theirs. Because look, for 55 years, the Syrian Arab Republic did not fight against Zionist Israel. It was just once in 2017 when they downed using SAM-2 missiles. They downed an F-16. I remember that distinctively because I was celebrating that day heavily. But later on, we figured out and we were told by very credible sources that it was actually the resistance that did that. The Lebanese resistance was the force that downed, but Syria took the blame, if you will. It's a pride, it's not a blame, because it happened because the F-16 was above Syrian occupied land. So it doesn't matter who downed it, but they did. That was the only time that it was registered that Syria downed an F-16 above its airspace. So Syria for 55 years did not touch Israel. What did Israel do? Exactly right after December 8, 2024, they invaded Syria. They bombed any sort of military post that they think is a threat to them. And they took nearly 700 square kilometers of land, and the richest land in resources and water in the region. And they took the highest mountains that overlook Lebanon and Syria, which the Syrian Arab Army won back after the 1967 war. So no kind of threat ever came from Syria. And yet Israel took the land. And look, Netanyahu told us he will do this in 2022 when he held at the UNGA that map showing Greater Israel. The man was telling the truth, and he just needed the spark to start his plan. And the spark for him was October 7, which I repeat time and again. There's no force on this planet that would make me believe that the Zionist entity had no idea that October 7 was happening.
They did know. Egypt,
and there's no power. Egypt told them. And they knew. I mean, Gaza is right there, and they have surveillance over it 24/7 for the past 18 years. They know. And no power on this earth would make me believe that Hamas and the Islamic Jihad were able to kill 1,700 Israelis in 7 hours. The Islamic Jihad and the Al-Quds Al-Quds brigades, Al-Qassam brigades, were able to kill between 200 and 250 military men during their rightful operation against an occupation in October 7 to kidnap, I'm saying it, to kidnap, take captive, I think 200 plus Israeli captive, to swap with more than, back then, 9,000 Palestinian detainees in Israeli prisons. When Netanyahu looked at the number, he didn't like it. And he saw that it was all military. He didn't like it. He initiated the Hannibal directive and killed his own people. I mean, we also, the Toyota trucks with young men with AK-47, they cannot bring down houses and eliminate a parking lot of cars. That was done with helicopters and tanks. So he wanted this blood in order to kickstart the plan that he showed us back in 2022, which is Greater Israel. And for now, after he did what he did for the past 2 years, genocide, no one said a word, a couple of protests here and there. But the good part in it, nothing comes good out of a genocide except brainwashed people were able to be woken by the smell of blood, Palestinian blood that was spilled over the past 2 years. Add to that, Lebanese blood, Jamal, which no one mentions, and I swear to you, by the head of my 3 girls, we don't want anyone to mention our blood. We're okay. We just want the genocide to stop in Gaza. That's why we supported. We started the support front. Over the past at least 70 years, Lebanon has been hit time and again with massacres. Since 1942, not 48, we have massacres registered in Lebanon and the southern part of Lebanon since 1942, with the Haganah terrorist gangs attacking our villages and massacring our people. And still, the Palestinian cause is a priority for us. We don't want people to talk about us. We can talk about us. It's fine. We don't want anyone to defend us. We can defend us. It's fine. But just to witness a siege, a genocide, killing humans, bombing hospitals, bombing schools, fathers running in the streets, holding in plastic bags the remaining dismembered parts of their children, all of that never pinched at least a slight effort to abide by international law, by the Western powers that keep feeding Zionist Israel with the weapons it needs to kill us. So we will not wait for anyone to tell us what to do, how to do it, or to come and help us. The land is ours. Even if they take every type of weapon from us, we have the rocks of our mountains that could protect us.
There is no such thing as international law. And I think the genocide makes that very clear. Also, the issues are interrelated. Israel's murder and widespread mass murder of the Palestinians, it's completely related to what is taking place in Lebanon. They're intrinsic. You can't separate the two. It's the fact that the entity exists in and of itself, the Zionist entity that exists in and of itself. Greater Israel is the project. That is the objective. And they've been very open with us at this point. What is the letter that Hezbollah put out? What do you think the government's response is going to be to that? And all things being equal, is that a threat? Is that a indication that Hezbollah, regardless of what the government does, will defend that land?
It is a threat to Zionist Israel, and it is an open, if you will, statement, a very formal yet very clear statement for the government that we acknowledge that you have tried every diplomatic road there ever existed to try and stop the aggression, and you failed. We know that you have been ordered to dismantle us and make your army fight us. That is what Tom Barak said. The army should fight its people. We are arming them to fight their people. And then he corrected himself and said Hezbollah, as if Hezbollah is not their people. But anyways, so Hezbollah is telling the government, we know, we acknowledge that you have tried. We gave you almost a year. November 27 is just 2 weeks away or 3 weeks away. And our civilians, our people have been paying the price all throughout that year, added to that the 2 years that passed before it. We will not let loose of our right or take it for granted to protect the people that we vowed to protect. Because the last part of the statement of the open letter says, we vow to our people to remain truthful to the basically promises that we made for them, to protect them, to defend their land, to defend their children. No one, even in this government, Jamal, I've even spoken about the 26 detainees, Lebanese detainees who were taken by Zionist Israel during the war. They didn't even, they gave away an Israeli spy. This government gave away to Israel an Israeli spy in a show of good intent instead of swapping them with our people, with our men. There are men who we held funerals for, where the newly liberated Palestinian detainees, after the end of the so-called genocide, which did not end so far, but after the so-called ceasefire in Gaza, those who were liberated, like the famous Mahmoud, I don't want to say the wrong family name, but if you remember the Jalboa prison break with the spoons that happened 3 years ago. Yeah, so those people who were freed from that prison said, we had Lebanese detainees with us who came in during the genocide that we in Lebanon held funerals for because we thought they were dead.
And they're prisoners.
They are prisoners. And the government did not even think about doing a swap. So we don't have the least trust, or at least intend to trust this government, because they didn't show that to us. And at the end of the day, there will be elections next year, 2026, in Lebanon. So that government that is now in place will not be able to implement what the Americans are demanding from it, because it's far beyond what it's capable of doing and far beyond what is allowed to happen on the ground in Lebanon. Because look, the people, the Western part of this world, especially the governments and the authorities, they keep thinking that they can disarm our resistance, which protects us, or that they can pressure it by Zionist Israeli aggression and it will cease to protect us. It won't cease to protect us, but what they don't know is we won't cease to protect it either. It is let's talk a bit of math. It's a proportional. It's a proportional relationship. We protect the resistance, and the resistance protects us back. So in no way, shape, or form, Jamal, will the government be able to actually implement what the Americans are demanding, because we, the people, will not allow it. And it's as simple as that.
Are you expecting an attack by Israel, or even worse, the Wahhabis in Syria? One of the
attacks
people
have not stopped. Let's begin by saying the war has not stopped against Lebanon.
That's
Look what happened this morning.
That's true.
But from the newly appointed terrorists in Syria, anything could happen, but they don't have the capabilities. Zionist Israel made sure that they don't have the capabilities. They have the capabilities to kill their own people and start massacres in the coast and in Suwaida.
Yeah.
But we also what kind of weaponry they have. They wouldn't stand, and even the Lebanese army has good experience with those terrorists, and the army itself can actually protect Lebanon when it comes to the terrorists. But if they are given new weapons like drones, they can create chaos, and they can negatively affect the military battlefield in Lebanon. But the real threat, as always, comes from the F-16s and F-35s and the bombers, the new B-2 bombers, for example. Because even Zionist Israel itself, it was able to mobilize 75,000 soldiers when the war in Lebanon was at its peak during the 66-day war, 2024. And they were not able to occupy. But they were able to inflict real heavy losses when it comes to bombing. So yes, we expect Israel to continue. No one expects peace from Israel. Even Egypt is at its toes, knowing that it might have to defend its own land, because the new plan for Trump and Netanyahu is to completely just exile all the Gaza population, ethnically cleanse them into the Egyptian land, and Egypt is not ready to give out any land for anyone.
Do you think they
will
will
be
be able to be?
who are in
I'm
direct.
sorry. I'm
Excuse
sorry
me.
to interrupt. Do you think they will be able to do that? I mean, I've seen this quote unquote plan that the Trump administration has for Gaza. This idea of trying to empty out Gaza either through murder or, for that matter, expulsion. Do you think that would work? Do you think that would be successful?
I think they might attempt to do it, but I also think that it will be a direct national security threat for Egypt. And I think Sisi knows this very well because, historically speaking, the army is one of the most important and most powerful institutions in Egypt. The army is much more powerful than the political institutions in Egypt. And that's why Sisi is a former military man himself. But Sisi knows very well that there's a limit for him to abide by the demands of Zionist Israel and the Americans. And even if he gives his okay, we have, how much is Egypt? 120 million is the
Yes.
population of Egypt. It's not going to look good. It's going to create a lot of problems for Sisi and his government. And I don't think that they are ready for this. And Jordan does not have the capacity to hold new population, new exodus into Jordan, even if they want to make it happen. It's also not going to be able to. It's going to be very hard to implement. But will they attempt and try? I'm sure they will.
Yeah, up to this point, Egypt and Jordan have said no. From my understanding, 60-70% of Jordan is already full of Palestinians.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is not going to look.
And Jordan also has a lot of problems with the new authority in Syria because it sees all of its northern border under the direct control of terrorists that even Jordan was fighting against during the global war against Syria. Yes, they do prefer those people now in Damascus over Bashar al-Assad, but at least during the reign of Bashar al-Assad, Jordan didn't have anything to be worried about when it comes to its security,
Right.
that any threat could come from the northern part of its territories. But now there's serious threat because don't look what the news is telling you. This is also what I teach my students, like sources. The real source is an internal source when you talk to the people on the ground there. And I have a lot of friends in Jordan, especially in the Ramtha, which is the northeastern part of Jordan. And they are tribes, very well-known tribes, Arab tribes, very proud of their heritage. And they actually supported the Syrian Arab army before the fall of the regime. And now they see the newly appointed terrorists in Syria as a threat to them, in specific to those tribes in the northern part of Jordan. And I talk to them and they tell me that the sentiment within the community is that they're getting ready. They're mobilizing to protect their communities. And they do trust their army, but at the same time, they know that their army is being run by a king who is basically just a remnant of the British Empire. And he considers himself an ally for the Americans. The Americans consider him a puppet for them. So they know that. And their concern is valid, and I think that they put their worries into action. And if anything could happen, they are ready to defend their country. So it is a volatile time, and the region is on a very hot plate. So it's not only about Lebanon, as you said, Jamal, when you started. What's happening in Palestine is directly proportional and linked to what's happening in Lebanon. I tell you, it's directly proportional and linked to what's happening in the entire region, even as far as Armenia and Azerbaijan. It's also linked to that, because now when everyone saw what kind of entity the Zionist entity is and how it doesn't even respect the so-called rules-based order that is being put in place by the Western powers themselves, every nation that finds itself capable of taking land or occupying or starting a war with its neighbor is doing so. We saw what happened between Pakistan and India, between Pakistan and Afghanistan, between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and now Azerbaijan is adamant on taking parts of Armenia. Nonetheless, that Turkey has already taken part, still occupies the Ararat Mountains, which is part of Armenia. And you have Turkey that has taken full control of the northern part of Syria. And when I say full control, I don't only mean military control. They have included their own institution and their own culture within the communities. Even the schools in northern Syria, if you go to that school, the flag in front of that school is a Turkish flag. The language that they are being taught and the education is in Turkish. It's a Turkish curriculum. So it's the money, the currency that they are using. It's no longer the Syrian currency. It is the Turkish lira. So you have that. You have in the southern part of Syria soon the Israeli. What's the currency of Israel? The shekel, the Israeli shekel. And then you have also in the eastern part of Syria, which is completely under the control, eastern part of the Euphrates is completely under the control of the Americans. If Syria has been liberated, and if Julani is now the best friend of Trump, why is still their boots on the ground in Syria? Because they are stealing Al Omar oil field and the crude oil of Syria and the Al Omar field and another field. That's why America goes anywhere at the moment. And now they are attempting to also start a war with Venezuela. Trump promised that he will stop the war on Ukraine. It seems that he will only just pour more fuel on the fire there. And the entire European continent is under threat because if a war actually breaks out between them and Russia, look at the entire world is on fire. And if you look at the essence of it, it was made possible because of all the green card, the carte blanche that was given to Zionist Israel to do what it needs to do. I mean, to a point, right now, we're hearing people like genocidaire terrorists like Ben Gvir voicing their disapproval and dismay at the election of a mayor in one of the states of the United States of America. I mean, they enlist and insert themselves in everything that's happening, which directly implies that they are an extended part of the colonial world. They are an extended part of colonialism in our land, and they want to have a say in everything, and they want everyone to pay them for it, and they want to have the rights for any sort of inventions that happen in the world, crypto inventions, military inventions, and they want to test them on us. All of this is happening, and while I'm telling you this, I imagine myself watching it in a sci-fi movie, but it's happening in real life. I mean, what we saw with the terrorist pager attack is something that I've never even imagined in my life. And then you have someone like Yossi Sorel go on TV and say, oh, you don't know what we have inserted in multiple countries, not only in Lebanon. And the person in front of him was saying, even like allied countries, like maybe Europe, he said, yes, they are uncontrollable anymore. They are thugs, armed and being paid by Western taxpayers' money to wreak havoc in the world. So what do you expect? Also, of course, chaos will just explode everywhere else.
Marwa, as I said, I don't think there's a such thing as international law. And I think you're making that argument very proficiently. I want to thank you for this. I always appreciate these conversations. I'm always illuminated by it. I always learn something in it. I hope the audience learns something in it, what's taking place on the ground. By the way, Vanessa Bealey told me to tell you hi. she apparently, you guys are friends.
Well,
thank you for this.
Nice to be here. Thank you for giving me the time and the chance to be here. And hopefully maybe we'll meet again before Zionist Israel takes us all out. Yani, hopefully we'll have more time in the future to talk about it. Look, I kid about it. I joke about it because I know it can happen. And I want you to take it lightheartedly because honestly, nothing is worth it on this planet. Nothing is worth it except your family and your land. So it's fine. Even if I joke about it, just take it lightheartedly.
I take the joke lighthearted. It's black humor, and I get it. I cover war constantly, and so the black humor just kind of comes along with it.
Yes.
But I do take it seriously. It's it's outrageous that this is allowed, and that this is permitted, and it is even worse that my government and our tax dollars is effectively egging it on. That degenerate, racist trash. Tom, the envoy for Syria. Tom, what is his last name? Yes.
Barak. He's Lebanese, baby. He's of Lebanese ancestry. This is what we export to the world. We export our trash and it comes back to our face.
That trash is horrendous as a degenerate human being. The stuff that he says, like he came out recently and was like, "This is Lebanon's last chance. I'm trying to help." And it's like, no, you're not. You're trying to start a civil war. What are you talking about?
He's just a mirror of his commander in chief, so it's expected.
But Marwa Osman, she's a journalist, TV show host for Press TV, Middle East Stream, and university lecturer and political commentator. Marwa, you be safe. Thank you very much. You be safe, okay? Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. She is